Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Huck. Today we're talking about my most anticipated releases for the first half of 2024. I usually like to break my anticipated releases up into first half and second half of the year. So second half of the year, if there are enough releases coming out in the second half of the year to warrant a whole video, will come out, you know, maybe midway through the year. And there are some that I am already excited about anticipating in the second half of the year, so planning to do that one. But today we're talking about the first half of the year, January through June of 2024. I feel like this year there's a decent number of new releases coming out that I'm looking forward to. I feel like in 2023 there were not that many new releases that I was like really excited about, but 2024 is looking more optimistic. And there are quite a few books from authors that I already like who are having new books come out. So that's actually a lot of the books on this list are authors that I already know and like. So I think I have 16 books to talk about today. There are a lot more books that I'm gonna be like keeping an eye on, but these are the ones that I am most excited about, most interested in. This list isn't necessarily a guarantee that I'm going to like buy or pick up any of these books in 2024, but especially for the ones that are from authors I already know, the likelihood of me picking up one of those books is much higher. I am not going to get too into the details in each of these books, partially because there's a lot of them, and also I don't want to know too much about them. I kind of want to go into them with, you know, just the vibes, like what's the vibe of this book. So we'll read a little bit of the description, but not too much of it. I've got my laptop here with my spreadsheet for new releases, some Goodreads descriptions. Let's dive in. All right, so starting with January, I have two releases in January that I am anticipating. The first one is Mislaid in Parts Half Known by Shauna McGuire. Of course, this is the most recent installment in the Wayward Children series. I think it's number 9 in the series, and I believe there are planned to be 10. So we're coming towards the end of the arc for these, unless they extend the series again, which they have done before. But this is a series of novellas that are all portal fantasy about kids that go into these magical portal worlds that are perfectly suited to them. And then many of them end up coming back out from those worlds, and they end up at the home for wayward children. I don't know too much about this 9th installment. I don't really need to know that much because I'm like, I've made it this far, I'm gonna read number 9. I've read the 8 other ones in this series. But it looks like this one is going to have dinosaurs, which I don't have a strong feeling about that one way or the other. I do feel like the last few installments in this series I have been less excited about. I just haven't liked them as much. So I'm kind of like in the middle excited about this. There's a certain amount of enjoyment I always get from this series, but I haven't loved the last couple installments. All right, and then the other January release that I have is The Djinn Waits 100 Years by Shubnam Khan. It's described as a gorgeously atmospheric novel about a ruined mansion by the sea, the djinn that haunts it, and a curious girl who unearths the tragedy that happened there 100 years previously. It is sublime, heart-wrenching, and lyrically stunning. The Djinn Waits 100 Years is a haunting, a love story, a mystery, all twined beautifully into one girl's search for belonging. And I think that it is sort of, I've heard that it is sort of a gothic story, but it has djinn in it, which sounds like it'll be a really interesting combination. I have been kind of dipping my toes into the waters of gothic literature, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't for me, but this one sounds very good and very interesting, so I'm excited about that. Now in February, I have 3 releases, all from authors that I have read before, which is exciting. The first one is Infinity Alchemist by Kaysen Callender. Kaysen Callender wrote Felix Ever After, which I reread this year and loved even more on reread. Felix Ever After is a YA contemporary. Infinity Alchemist looks like it is more of a fantasy, or like alchemy kind of fantasy, so it's a bit of a different genre. But I am still excited about it because rereading Felix Ever After has kind of reignited my enthusiasm for Case and Calendar. Case and Calendar does also have a backlist of books that I probably should read too, but it's always exciting to see a new book coming out. So it says that it is a spellbinding novel about a quest that leads 3 young alchemists toward an unexpected love and unimaginable power. Featuring trans, queer, and polyamorous characters of color, Infinity Alchemist is the hugely anticipated young adult fantasy debut from the extraordinary author of Felix Ever After. The next book is The Tainted Cup by Robert Jackson Bennett. This is the first book in a new series called Shadow of the Leviathan. So Robert Jackson Bennett wrote the Founders trilogy that started with Foundry Side. I really enjoyed that trilogy. It was very fun, very interesting world and magic. I think that Robert Jackson Bennett has some very interesting and unique approaches to like worlds and magic and all of that. So I'm really curious to see where he goes with this one. It also sounds like it will be a little bit naturey. So it says, in Dertana's most opulent mansion, a high imperial officer lies dead, killed to all appearances when a tree spontaneously erupted from his body. Even in this canton at the borders of the empire, where contagions abound and the blood of the Leviathans works strange magical changes, it's a death at once terrifying and impossible. Featuring an unforgettable Holmes and Watson style pairing, a gloriously labyrinthian plot, and a haunting and wholly original fantasy world, The Tainted Cup brilliantly reinvents the classic mystery tale. So I feel like this has some elements to it that sound very interesting. I do enjoy a Holmes and Watson type combination of characters, although mystery is not always a genre that works for me. However, I like Robert Jackson Bennett and the stories that he tells and the magic that he creates. So I am definitely going to give this one a try. Also, this has a fantastic cover. Honestly, I feel like a lot of these releases this year have great covers, but also Robert Jackson Bennett, just like if you look at all of his series, somehow he manages to get fantastic covers for like all of his books. I don't know how he does it, but this one looks very cool. Next up, we have What Feasts at Night by T. Kingfisher. So this is a sequel novella to What Moves the Dead, which was like a gothic horror kind of Poe inspired story, which I really enjoyed, and I was surprised how much I liked it. I thought that that was a standalone, and I think that it was originally intended to be, but now there is a sequel coming out, and I don't know how to feel about it, because I feel like I've been burned before. Times when there was a book that was originally written as a standalone, and then they later decided to turn it into a series and added like a sequel and things like that. I feel like it doesn't always work, so I'm kind of excited about it because I enjoyed What Moves the Dead, so it's cool to like get more of that story, but also I'm a little bit wary of how this is going to go. Okay, so let's go on to March, where I think I have 4 releases. So first up, we have Song of the Huntress by Lucy Holland. This is a book that I have been anticipating for so long. I've been following Lucy Holland's like posts online about as she's been working on it, and it just sounds like it is going to be right up my alley. So Lucy Holland wrote Sister Song, which I really enjoyed when it came out. I feel like I was a little overly critical of it when I reviewed it, but I did really enjoy it. I liked her writing. I liked the type of like stories that she chooses to retell. And so I'm really excited to see this coming out. This is a retelling or reimagining of the Wild Hunt, which I think will be really interesting. I'm not totally sure, but I think that it may also have a sapphic relationship in it. It says Lucy Holland transforms the story of Herla and the Wild Hunt into a rich feminist fantasy in this stunning tale of two great warriors, a war-torn land, and an ancient magic that is slowly awakening. So I really don't need to know more. I'm already excited. Also though, there are two different covers for this book. The UK cover and the US cover look very different, and I can't totally decide which one I like better. However, I am kind of leaning towards the UK edition just because I feel like it captures the vibe, at least that I am anticipating, better, and it matches, like the style of it matches the cover for Sister Song, which I also like. So I am kind of leaning towards the UK edition. Okay, next up, also in March, we have The Woods All Black by Lee Mandelow. So Lee Mandelow wrote Summer Suns, which is like a Southern Gothic, which I really liked when I read it. Another one that was like a surprise to me because Gothic can be so hit or miss for me. But I am really excited to see something else coming out from this author. I think they had another book come out in 2023, but I didn't read that one because it sounded like it had stuff about like experiments on wolves, and like it was just gonna have sad animal stuff in it that I just was like, I don't want to get into it. But this one I don't think is going to have that, so I'm much more interested in reading it. It says that it is equal parts historical horror, trans romance, and blood-soaked revenge, all set in 1920s Appalachia. The Woods All Black is a story of passion, prejudice, and power, an Appalachian period piece that explores reproductive justice and bodily autonomy, the horrors of small-town religiosity, and the necessity of fighting tooth and claw to live as who you truly are. Another one that is kind of a gothic horror that I'm interested in, I think, like, now I'm starting to be like, maybe gothic is something that I like. Anyway, this one I also am drawn to just because it has such a beautiful cover, but it's called A Botanical Daughter by Noah Medlock. So it's described as Mexican Gothic meets The Lie Tree by way of Oscar Wilde and Mary Shelley. So it's a lot of influences. In this delightfully witty horror debut, a captivating tale of two Victorian gentlemen hiding their relationship away in a botanical garden who embark on a Frankenstein-style experiment with unexpected consequences. Told with wit and warmth, this is an extraordinary tale of family, fungus, and more than a dash of bloody revenge from an exciting new voice in queer horror. So, I mean, it has a beautiful cover. It includes a botanical garden, which appeals to me. And it mentions fungus, which this is such a random thing, but because as I've been dipping my toes in the water of like gothic horror, two of the books that I've liked the most have been What Moves the Dead and Mexican Gothic, which both are like fungus horror. And so I'm like, is gothic fungus horror like my niche of like horror that I like? I don't know. So this is one I'm also like very curious about. And then our last March release is Icarus by Kay Ankrum. So this is I think a YA contemporary. Kay Ankrum, I have read most of her books and I have really enjoyed them. I just love the way that she writes. Her writing is so like captivating in a way that like her books are often ones that I can just sit down and read in a day. And so it's just very fun and I really enjoy her stuff. So I'm excited to have something new from her. So this says it is a suspenseful queer YA romance that reimagines the tale of Icarus as a star-crossed love story between a young art thief and the son of the man he's been stealing from, which sounds like it's going to be very fun. Now we are on to April, and I have 3 releases for April. The first one being A Sweet Sting of Salt by Rose Sutherland. I think this is a debut, and it says, once a young woman uncovers a dark secret about her neighbor and his mysterious new wife, she'll have to fight to keep herself and the woman she loves safe in this stunning queer reimagining of the classic folktale of the Selkie wife. So I am really excited to see a retelling of the Selkie wife. It's one you don't see a whole lot retold, so I think that will be really fun and interesting. I have never read this author before. Obviously it's a debut, so I've never read this author before, and I'm just really excited about it. This next one, I don't know if I'm excited or not, but I am going to definitely be keeping track of it, like keeping tabs to see if I become interested, because it is The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo. This is the type of book that if it was not Leigh Bardugo, I would not have even taken notice of this book at all. It's not really the kind of thing that I tend to read. However, it is Leigh Bardugo, so there is a certain amount that I'm just kind of interested in it because of that, but it's not one that I'm going to like immediately pick up. I'm probably going to wait, hear some reviews, see what people say about it. Maybe I'll pick it up after a while, but I don't know if I'm interested in this or not really, but it does have a very cool cover. And then we have To a Darker Shore by Leanne Schwartz. This one, I just think this is such a fun cover. I like the art design of it, but it says, plain, poor, plus size, and autistic, Alesta grew up trying to convince her kingdom that she's too useful to be sacrificed like so many of this country's poor to appease the infernal monster across the poison sea in hell. When Alesta's attempt to prove herself with inventions goes awry, her best friend and heir to the throne takes the blame, expecting leniency, and ends up tithed in her place. To end the sacrifices forever, Alesta plans to kill the monster that killed her friend. She travels to the depths of hell only to find her friend alive, but monstrously transformed. There's no escaping hell or their deeper feelings for one another, and the farther they go, the closer they come to uncovering a truth about the tithings that threatens to invoke the wrath of not only monsters, but the gods as well. So this just sounds like it is going to be so much fun. I don't know, that just sounds like such a fun book. Now on to May. I only have 2 books for May. The first one is The Honey Witch by Sydney J. Shields. And this says, the Honey Witch of Innisfree can never find true love. That is her curse to bear. But when a young woman who doesn't believe in magic arrives on her island, sparks fly in this deliciously sweet debut novel of magic, hope, and love overcoming all. This looks like it's going to be so cute and very like cozy cottagecore garden fantasy, and I am very excited for it. And then the other May release is The Fireborn Blade by Charlotte Bond. Now this one, there's something about the cover design that initially I would have assumed it is not a book that I would really be interested in, but then I read the description and I was like, all right, this sounds like it could be good. Okay, so it says, kill the dragon, find the blade, reclaim your honor. It's that or end up like the countless knights before her as a puddle of gore and molten armor. Madeleine's tale contains a rich history of dragons, ill-fated knights, scheming squires, and sapphic love, with deceptions and double crosses that will keep you guessing right up to its dramatic conclusion. Ultimately, The Fireborn Blade is about the roles we refuse to accept and of the place we make for ourselves in the world. So that sounds like it's going to be very fun. Love like a lady knight. And then finally, we have 2 June releases as well. Both are continuations of series. So the first one is Mirrored Heavens by Rebecca Roanhorse. This is the 3rd and I believe final book in the Between Earth and Sky trilogy, which started with Black Sun. I loved Black Sun. It was so good. I thought the second book, Fevered Star, did really feel like it fell into second book syndrome. It was really just a bridge book. So I'm really hoping that this conclusion is really strong and that, you know, all of the work, that bridge work that happened in the second book was worth it, and we can come to like a really strong conclusion in this finale, and that this can be just like a really solid trilogy, you know? Because if the beginning and the end are solid, we can forgive like a bridge book in the middle. So I am so excited about Mirrored Heavens. And then the other book is another one that I'm like, I'm tentatively excited, which is Tidal Creatures by Shauna Maguire. This is the third book in the Alchemical Journeys. So this is the series that started with Middle Game. This is one where like, loved Middle Game. It was fantastic. Middle Game was originally written as a standalone, and I think it was great as a standalone. Then we got a sequel to it, which was Seasonal Fears, and I did not really like it. I think that it lost a lot of the things that made Middle Game great and just focused on other things. It just felt like a very unnecessary book that didn't really accomplish a lot. And so I'm not really sure how excited I am about Tidal Creatures. This is kind of, you know, it's kind of going to determine like how I feel about the series as a whole. I actually don't know if this is the conclusion or if this is like an ongoing series that she's gonna keep going with, but if it does continue after this, this is kind of, I think, going to be like a deciding book for me, because if this is more similar to Seasonal Fears, then I think that I'm probably gonna just pretend like Middle Game was a standalone and forget the rest of the series exists. But if this one is strong and really good, then again, we can forgive, you know, a weaker middle book, like a bridge book, and just focus on the good ones in the series. I think this one is focused on a moon goddess, which sounds like it will be interesting. I hate this cover though, like this Middle Game, again, fantastic cover design, is so good. Seasonal Fears, very bland cover design, but whatever. Tidal Creatures, this is a terrible cover. So especially in comparison to how fantastic so many of these covers for releases this year have been, like what are they doing? Anyways, that is the last book on my most anticipated releases for the first half of 2024. As I said, I already have some anticipated releases for the second half of the year that I am really excited for and looking forward to. So I am planning to do another one of these further into the year once we have some more information, because most of them are pretty tentative and up in the air at the moment, but there are some things coming out in the second half that I'm really looking forward to as well. Anyways, I think that this seems like it's going to be a pretty strong year for releases, continuing some series that I'm really looking forward to, some authors that I love that are coming out with new things. I would love to know, what are some of your most anticipated releases? Are any of these books on your anticipated releases books? Are any of these ones that you hadn't heard of before? Or is there anything that you think that I missed in my list of anticipated releases? I'd love to know. Thank you all for watching, and until next time, bye.